Hey gang, so we have the latest roadmap roundup. Again, we don't have a new progress tracker. At this point, it's kind of looking sketchy if we'll get one. They keep including verbiage in there that says that they will be having one, but we'll see. We might get one after 323. So let's get this. All right, for those of you who haven't seen this before, basically what I do is I go through, I do the roadmap roundup, I do the release view, just kind of confirm what the roadmap roundup says, just kind of give a couple of my thoughts there. And then typically the real meat of this show is right here. And I go into the progress tracker, kind of talk about the things. Obviously, they haven't updated the progress tracker, so the main thrust of this isn't available right now. Eventually what they'll do is they'll stretch out these timeline bars, and without a bunch of context, there's still certain things that we can derive from those numbers, but we don't have them yet. So with that in mind, let's get into the roadmap roundup. Notable changes for April 17th, 2024, release view. As part of our final review process, we've concluded that the quality of cargo features that were targeting the launch of Alpha 323 are not yet at the stage where we need them to be for release to the live servers. Sad. The freight elevators and instanced hangars in particular are technologically complex features that will require a bit more work before we feel comfortable fully integrating them into the game. This additional time allows the team to test for additional edge cases, include further refinements, which is especially important for features as impactful as these. However, we are not currently planning on shifting them back a full patch cycle. The features below will remain in the 323 column on the release view, but are now targeting a 323.x release. Item banks, personal and instanced hangars, new missions, cargo hauling, and freight elevators. And honestly, that is kind of what I was expecting a few months ago. It just sort of seemed like any patch that you'd be dropping engineering in, and of course server meshing, you would probably want to have those be the only things that you're releasing because they're going to break a lot. Engineering, of course, is just going to be in Arena Commander. It's not going to be in the game itself, but it's still one of those things that you kind of want to be able to have your devs in there digging around and fixing them. Item banks, persistent hangars, cargo hauling. Of course, those who have followed this channel for a while know that I am a trader, so cargo hauling kind of fits into that to a certain extent. Freight elevators, it would have been great to have like the whole fully instanced hangars where you could just kind of store stuff. You wouldn't need to worry about leaving it in your room or leaving it on a particular station, that kind of thing. You would have it in your hangar and you would know where that hangar is, and that hangar would be home. But we're gonna have to wait till 323X, which I don't think is actually going to be all that far apart. If it's past June, I would be very surprised. I think what they're going to aim for is 323. Right now it seems relatively stable. It still needs it still has some issues with desync, pretty bad desync, especially around the new underground bunkers. Well, I guess above ground bunkers, the trade centers, I forget what they call them, but we'll get there in a bit. But other than that, it seems relatively stable outside of the desync. So I think we'll be seeing 323, I would guess, by the end of this month, and then 323X. I would normally say 323 would be out for Invictus, but I would think 323X would be Invictus. But with 323 probably dropping at the end of the month, 323X is probably going to be after Invictus. So expect 323 to drop around the end of the month, and then having kind of a hot fix patch. Of course, put in whatever new ships they drop for Invictus for the Invictus patch, and then 323.x, which will be the next like actual, I wouldn't say big number patch, little number patch, will probably be beginning of June, maybe maybe in time for Alien Week, but I would be surprised if it's that far. These things seem like they need a little bit more time in the oven. Again, without the progress tracker, it's hard to tell quite how many people are working on it or how long they've been working on it, but we could guess. So let's keep going through Roadmap Roundup. The following features have been added to Release View, targeting a 3.23.0 release, so the first one. Vulkan Graphics API support, converting the Star Citizen render from DirectX 11 to the Vulkan Graphics API. This allows spreading GPU submission work over many CPU cores. It enables many new tech features that were previously unavailable, such as ray tracing. Vulkan is able to be opted into via the options menu with this release, but it will eventually fully replace DirectX 11 in the future. Cool. Water simulation and rendering improvements. These have been getting gradually better. One of the things that was kind of popping up that kind of forced home the point of why they don't want videos and images from Evocati releasing is one of the videos that released was a ship flying over the water, and the deformation on the water just didn't look good, but it was a bug report. Somebody was saying, hey, this is what it's looking like with my thing, this is clearly a bug, and the devs were like, yeah, that's clearly a bug, we'll look at that. And so when you have people putting that out as a representation of where the game is at, as opposed to a build where this is the first time it's being meshed into everything else, a little bit different situation. That's sort of why they want to keep Evocati under wraps as far as visually is concerned, like images and videos, where we can talk about it, but the actual videos aren't helpful in the larger context because people are thinking that is the way it's going to look, and that's not the way it's going to look. There we go. That's my hop off my soapbox now. Mobiglass rework. These are things that are going to be in the next patch. Reworking the Mobiglass system to use building blocks, which will allow for easier development of Mobiglass apps, which is kind of cool. This update includes reworked home maps, contract manager, and journal apps. So you'll note that that does not include Knickknacks, which is a new name now. Your sort of ship loadout screen is still the same. And I think comms is still the same. So like the friendless screen is still using the old one. So on some of these screens, like home, maps, contract manager, and journal, those will kind of look curved and they'll kind of match up with the new way the Mobiglass is laid out. But the old ones, the ones that they haven't converted over to building blocks, will look like the old school. They are the old school one. FPS loot screen, introducing a new screen for looting critical items quickly, allowing for more reliable inventory management in tense situations. This is one of those things that desync is kind of screwing over. Every time in the PTU that I've tried to use the loot screen, it'll open for half a second and then close, which is not so reliable in tense situations, but they'll get that fixed. It's a known issue and they're working on it. By the time it probably drops to even wider PTU, they'll probably have that one rounded up. FPS map system, implementing a mini map for the HUD as well as interior maps for FPS gameplay, helping players stay oriented in close quarter encounters. Yeah, that is really cool. The FPS map system is neat. Visor and lens HUD rework, converting the visor and lens systems to building blocks for improved performance and flexibility. Yeah, that'll be really cool, because another thing they'll be able to do with the visor and lens, eventually utilizing building blocks, is now if you're wearing a Morozkov helmet, it might look different than your stone skin, whatever that helmet is. The different builds might actually end up looking different. That's what they eventually plan on doing for the HUDs for the various ships. Player interaction experience. Implementing the updated player interaction experience, a holistic array of complementary features and systems, all related directly to the player. Player status, item status, environmental status, as well as interactions with both the game world and objects within it are covered under these systems. One cool thing I noticed about that, I was buying med pens, and usually what I will do is when I buy med pens, I'll usually buy like 6 med pens or 10 med pens, and then I'll buy one of each of all the others, just in case I get like a tier 3 injury. I can pop that pen and not suffer the side effects of having that injury. One of the new pins that's in there is for radiation sickness, so get ready for that when you go into Pyro. We won't be getting it yet. We'll be getting that with 4.0, but the pin is already in there, which I think is pretty cool. EVA Tier 2, improved EVA controls and animations for smoother traversal in 0G. This is my favorite feature of 3.2.3. I know a lot of people will go with the maps and the mobiGlass rework, all of that. I like that too. EVA is the thing that has been most frustrating for me over the years. I could use the map, I couldn't use EVA. Introduces limited EVA fuel and encourages the use of 0G push-pull in the multi-tools tractor beam. I don't think the second part is actually in 3.2.3. I think that was going to be introduced in a later build unless they've changed something. So the limited EVA fuel, we don't have fuel yet. We will. They might be implementing that for tier 3 or for 3.2.3. They just haven't put it in the PTU yet. That'd be interesting. But these 0G push-pull is the alligator walk where you're just putting your hands on the thing and kind of moving yourself along that way. Multi-tool tractor beam we've got in the game right now. I think this stuff is coming later though, but the new EVA Tier 2, check my video where I kind of go over the things that are in 3.2.3 that are new. I also go over the new visor lens HUD rework, and the map system is kind of cool. Star map rework again goes along with the FPS map system. It's all one thing. Implementing the new and improved star map and the improved visuals and usability, including easier search and trip planning functionality. Master modes, controversial, but it shouldn't be. It's kind of cool. I like master modes. Does it need some tweaks? Sure. But overall, it's kind of a good balance. If you're going to run away from a fight, you actually have to think about the consequences of doing that, and then you can go. And when you jump into a fight, you're going to have a couple seconds where you're vulnerable. So if you're going to go reinforce friends or kind of like mob someone, you're going to have to think about that real carefully, because if you jump in and the thing that you thought was a whole A is actually a fully crewed hammerhead, you're going to have a couple minutes or a couple seconds there, like literally like 3 to 5, where you don't have shields or guns, and could be a bad time. But anyway, master modes, implementing new modes to vehicles to manage their speed, components, and role-specific functions. This release introduces the nav and SEM modes, as well as a complete retuning of all ships. Pretty cool. New missions, creature hunting. I have not seen that in the PTU yet. I have seen that other content creators have gotten it. I suspect people are snapping up the missions very quickly just to see what the copions look like. New missions that require players to locate, kill, and retrieve valuable parts of creatures roaming the environment. Fauna, copion. Populating the persistent universe with the copion, an aggressive, agile animal that travels in packs and currently just stays locked to its position and won't move at all, but would not expect that to continue. You'll find them in a variety of areas, from grassy fields to lurking in the darkness of caves. That is terrifying. Fauna, Marok. Populating the persistent universe with the Marok A passive bird-like a passive flying bird-like creature. Moroks live in flocks, more like a merflock, am I right? And are often found near lush green environments. One thing they aren't mentioning here, interestingly, is the Causey Grazer, which is the space cow, which I would expect to see in this patch, even though it's unlisted. And I would not be shocked if they put space whales in and just didn't tell us. So these are the quote-unquote surprises. The real surprises will be you'll land at one of those settlements and you'll see space cows out there. Arena Commander, Engineering Experimental Mode. Mr. Scarlet and Ghost in the Carnival are going to be ecstatic about that. Actually, a lot of us are, just because it's a whole new loop and one we've been waiting for since like 2014. 3 limited test experimental modes featuring the engineering gameplay, also referred to as Resource Network, showcased at SitCon 2953. Help shape the future of engineering gameplay in Star Citizen by testing and giving feedback to the features and balance showcased in this limited test before it hits the persistent universe. So normally I don't do this, but do test that. This is going to be what draws in all the players that aren't big into FPS combat or PvP, flying around, blowing things up. This is what's going to bring in all of those players, like your friend that's just a casual gamer that kind of likes playing strategy games or something like that, and you've been trying to get him into Star Citizen for years, and he's like, it's just not my style of thing. Might be huge into engineering gameplay, which I think is kind of the point. I know I'm kind of trying to bring in a couple friends that I wouldn't have brought in before in the project because I've been waiting for engineering to hit. So huge deal. But it's up to us to kind of jump in and sort of test the limits of it and kind of be like, this works really well. This is amazing. But this part right here, maybe it needs to be tweaked, or I'm just not getting it, or it's boring or whatever. The devs need to know that. Don't tell them how to do their jobs. Just tell them this is fun, this isn't. And they will take it from there and kind of make it more fun. Less boring. Arena Commander Grav Royale embark on high-speed mayhem in a thrilling new game mode. Grav Royale engage in intense vehicular combat across diverse maps, mastering your Grav-led vehicles to outmaneuver foes and seize victory in this gravity-defying battle arena. That needed to end with an exclamation point with that many action words. Arena Commander Custom Lobbies. Custom Lobbies, previously referred to as private matches, makes their return to Arena Commander utilizing the new front end and lobby systems. Custom lobbies allow players to set up and play matches for any game modes on any map at any time with their own rules. That's pretty cool too. You could set up duels, you could kind of set up training scenarios, that kind of thing, without having to go into the PU and having people, okay, you died, so respawn back at the station at the other planet, and we'll wait 30 minutes until you fly here in your starter ship, and we'll go through the training again. Yeah, no, this is the way to go. Arena Commander, new flight map, Miner's Lament. I have actually flown around that before on this channel, so if you ever want to take a look at it, I don't remember which video it was. Just go back and watch them all. Miner's Lament, previously exclusive to racing and part of Master Mode's test, now opens its treacherous asteroid-laden expanse to all flight modes. Dogfight in the chaotic beauty of Yela's Ring for an intense, dangerous, close-quarters showdown. I tend to use asteroids to block incoming missiles. That's all for this week. No progress tracker updates this week as work continues on long-term planning, blah, 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 blah. Let's take a look at the release view. So we're over here again. If you see these little orange dots, that's the ones where they've added something new in there. But let's take a look. Character customizer is amazing. I made myself in the last one, which if you look at my kind of review into 323, probably half that video is me just doing the character customizer, which is incredible. It's probably one of the better character creators I've seen in a game. The only thing that I'd like to see is to be able to manage the body shape and maybe slight variations in height, but they've said that's coming once they solve it. It's just not a big priority. Distribution centers, that's what I was looking for. Those are pretty cool. Crash the frames at the moment, cause a lot of desync, look amazing. They are, once they hammer out the desync, those locations are just going to be incredible. They are really well detailed, a lot of fun to go around. We will definitely be taking a look at them. The fauna, copions, they look pretty cool. If you haven't seen them yet, tons of content creators out there have created videos, so I was trying not to pile on, but yeah, they look neat and they move cool too when they actually do move. Marocs, I have not seen a Maroc yet. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, but yeah, both those will be in there again. Expect the Kazi Grazer and maybe the Stormwall to be in there. Mobiglass rework, move to committed. Let's see what else in here is new. Engineering experimental mode is committed. Grav Royale is committed. Yeah, these are all kind of in there. So they haven't pulled these off, which is heartening. And this is the personal and instanced hangars, cargo moving, all of that. Like they were saying, 323X. It's hard to say when 323.x could drop. Again, could be June. I wouldn't think it would be that long, but it might be. I do think 4.0 they're going to try to drop at SitCon, just as kind of announce Squadron 42 is available. I would expect, if that is the case, if they're going to try to drop Squadron 42 in December in time for the holidays, which would be the smart thing to do, you will start seeing advertising for it around June, I would think. You'll start seeing demos of a level or two rolling out to big streamers. Probably September-ish. Wouldn't shock me. IAE just kind of roll a few out there so that like I could see Level Cap and Ollie getting in there, but maybe other big streamers who haven't been a part of the Star Citizen community, just kind of give it to them to kind of be like, take a look, let us know what you think, and start getting the word out there. But they won't roll it out to, I'll call them stranger content creators, until they're like 100% sure the game's working on all levels, and they won't roll out a broken level to them to run for a demo, obviously. Anyway, just speculation there. Blockade Runner, this is interesting. We haven't heard anything about this one. Maybe this is going to be a 323.x, which is another reason I thought it might be a Invictus launch. But now we're kind of hitting that window where unless 323 drops within the next week or so, which I don't think it will. If it were dropped by the end of next week, I'd say an Invictus launch is possible, but yeah, they might just drop this dynamic event with Invictus regardless of what patch it's in. It makes sense. Anyway, visor lens, EVA tier 2, star map. Yep, we've talked about all these. Freight elevator, sad face, but I'd rather they release it in a working state than a non-working state. This is a big one. Aegis Retaliator Gold Standard and modularity. Modularity is huge. I have a video on that. Just link it in the up above parts if you want to watch it. Yeah, there are a fair number of ships that could use modularity, the Retaliator being just one of them. Master modes we know about. Weapons and items, what was that? Oh, the dynamic crosshair. Yeah, subtle. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm ambivalent, especially if they keep it to military helmets. It makes sense in lore. Anyone that's played Shadowrun ever, or Cyberpunk, they have a smart link where it basically puts a sight on your eye when you're using a smart gun. No different than that. And it truly is dynamic. Like if you go to load your gun, the crosshair will go up off the screen because you're basically pointing the gun up. So it truly is dynamic. Vulkan Graphics API support. It's weird that's tentative. I would assume that's going to be working. Water simulation and rendering improvements. This is one that I think could drop. Volumetric clouds seem to be working pretty good. Image upscaling, that's probably tied to Vulkan, I would assume. Replication layer update is basically what 3.2.3 is really about, is that replication layer update. So I wouldn't expect 3.2.3 to drop without that. So expect that to move to committed pretty soon. Yeah, gang, that's all I got for this one. Hopefully we get those numbers pretty soon. If not, they're probably moving to a different system of tracking the roadmap, which honestly, combined with the monthly report and the roadmap roundup and the release view, we kind of have enough context to draw our own conclusions. It's just nice for me, being a visual person, to be able to look at this and say, okay, they've been working on this thing for 17 months. That seems about right for that kind of a project. And they've had 10 people working on it. Yeah, that one's probably pretty close. And then another one where they've had one dude working on it off and on for 3 weeks. That thing's going to need a lot more time in the oven. But yeah, whichever way they go with it, we'll see, and I'll be there for it. So catch you next time.